last year I watched a lot of movies, seeing as my country had a massive lockdown, and it was a weird video I made. It had no relations to anything I'd made before, but I like movies. I watch a lot of movies. That's the field I want to work in. So I'm doing the same again this year. Just giving my opinion on every movie and show I watched this year. If there's anything that you feel like you're going to watch now after watching this video, feel free to. And if you're new to this channel, please make sure you leave a like down below if you enjoyed this video. And if you're new here, hey, why not subscribe? I mean, nobody checks their subscription tab anymore. It doesn't really change anything. You're not gonna see videos of mine that you don't want to see. Just subscribe, okay? Just do it. Also, I'm sorry about all the anime in this video. If that isn't your thing, feel free to skip it or go find something else, okay? I'm sorry about that. I accidentally watched a lot. Accidentally, I don't know, I'm just rambling off. Okay, bye. Attack on Titan. Okay, this is going to be hypocritical, especially seeing as what I just said with Stone Ocean. But, screw it. Phenomenal. I was absolutely hooked the whole way through. Every single character was so fleshed out. Reiner, Berthold, and Z did make me question if what they were doing was right, which is always the scariest villains. Sasha's death fits perfectly to set this tone for Season 4. And fuck them for killing her. She was, without a doubt, my favorite character in that show. She was straight up crack up. Levi was straight up terrifying when he was pissed and made you realize how much he held back against practically everyone. Going into Season 4, I loved Eren, and after watching the first part of Season 4, fuck him, I hated him. Mikasa and Armin were such amazing complex characters, but fuck Eren, he's a bitch, why'd they do that? And now that I finished Season 4 Part 2, I wrote that part before, and I'm waiting for Part 3, because god, for some reason they chose to do that, it's really good. Now, I feel like this show has been slightly overhyped, people saying it's the best anime ever, because like, no, Neon Genesis exists. My opinion on Eren changed a lot throughout this part. He was very complex. Do I agree with him? No. Is it a very good philosophical moral conundrum that forced you to think about if the team working on... The philosophical conundrum made you think, and I respect that, and the team who worked on the show did a great job portraying that. That's all I gotta say about Attack on Titan, really. Blade Runner 2042. If a film makes me just sit there and contemplate my interpretation of what it is, immediately I'm a fan of that movie. And just like the original Blade Runner, this film is so good. A lot of care and attention went into crafting the story, and I still don't fully know what the symbolism in the story is. And I think that goes to show how good of a movie it is, how it's such a simple story, but it means so much. And I know everyone who sees Blade Runner 2042 has said this, but this is one of the most visually stunning movies I've seen. I could throw up shots that everyone uses just to show how stunning this movie is, but if you're watching this video, you know what shots I'm probably talking about. It's a movie I highly recommend, and it's so beautiful. The Book of Boba Fett. This show doesn't have a lot going for it. I was all for giving Boba Fett an actual personality that is deeper than just being a cold mercenary, but it felt like they didn't do enough. I don't care about essentially all the characters that were introduced because none of them again had an interesting personality. They did a poor job establishing the length of time Boba spent. They did a bad job establishing the time Boba spent alone in the sands of Tatooine. Because I thought it was just like a few weeks, but no, it was meant to be multiple years. I did have a glimmer of hope with episode 5 and 6 being probably an easy 10 out of 10 episodes, they're so good. Then the finale happened, in which, for the climax of the show, 6 hours of building a story, and for it to escalate to the highest point, it's just boring. This whole show just felt like a bad Mandalorian episode, and like, if you enjoy it, that's fine. But why? I fully don't know my opinion on this movie. See, I love the two main characters of Hibiki and Uta. I love the animation, like, it's a given, it's stunning. The parkour scenes are amazing, the soundtrack has this incredibly sad tone but remains fairly hopeful. The writing is but I don't like the story, excluding the last 20 minutes. I just feel like it's missing something to truly satisfy me. But the most important part of a movie being the story to not be that good, at least to me personally. Everything else I find phenomenal, so I'm lost rating-wise. If you're curious about this film, essentially it's a different take on The Little Mermaid. Now, I only figured this out because the movie flat out says it. I've never watched the movie. movie or read the tales, so yeah, and I mean, I know I'm not alone who's just been a bit confused with their opinion on this movie, as that's been the general consensus on Letterboxd. I was kind of disappointed because I was looking forward to this movie, and I was a bit disappointed, but yeah. When I heard there was a Cyberpunk Netflix series coming out, I thought it was probably gonna be kinda ass. I watched the Castlevania series, I wasn't the biggest fan of that. I hate how much I like this series. It is so fucking incredible. The emotion that I feel watching this is so good. The ending just absolutely fucking ripped my heart out. I was that emotionally invested into a series. And I don't get emotionally invested too easy. It's normally fairly hard to make me cry, except have a movie about a dog and that dog dies. Then I'll probably cry. But holy Christ, is this good. And, I mean, the fact that this show basically single-handedly revived Cyberpunk, the game that's been dead for like 2 years after its abysmal launch, it's fucking amazing to see that. The Demon Slayer Entertainment District arc. I do just want a preference. I accidentally used the poster for this in last year's video. I like Demon Slayer. It's fun, its animation is stunning, it's got a good story, the characters are amazing, the story is solid, I've said that twice now. Now, in the first season, I wasn't a fan of Inosuke and Zenitsu. I found them annoying, but this season made me really care about those characters. They were fleshed out more, and I could definitely feel their struggles. Tengen, holy shit, a badass. His wives were something, they were kinda funny. The demon's backstory is sad as usual, and they were really interesting in their fighting style. It's a good watch that I blasted out in a day, and damn, it's good. If you want any anime just watch, I fully recommend Demon Slayer, just because it's so good. Don't Look Up. I really slept on this. I skipped it thinking it was going to be shit, the Society bad movie, and I didn't want to see Leo in a bad movie. Instead of being Society le bad, it's le good. Instead of it being le bad, it's le good Society dumb movie. It's funny, I would recommend it. It's really good and kind of definitely deserved being nominated for the Oscars. I don't remember if it wins. What am I, 50? June. This is the new Lord of the Rings series, and it was the perfect amount to give me the nerdgasm I was looking for. This film was beautiful and fantastic and symbolic, and I love this film so much. Yes, it's incredibly slow, and yes, the more casual MCU fan film goer, they're not going to enjoy it. But the criticism I saw during the release made no sense. From the first few seconds of this movie, you're told that this was only part 1, so you know that a lot of what is going to be shown isn't going to be wrapped up by the ending. The people who have been saying that nothing happens as well feel like they didn't watch the movie, or again, as I keep comparing this film to The Lord of the Rings. Say you're watching The Fellowship of the Ring, and at the end, instead of hopping in the boat, Frodo just uses his TP command to get to Mount Doom. But overall, I'm looking forward to the next part. I love this film. It's so good, and I think it can only get better. Especially with what I've heard about the casting. See, this is how you do a multiverse movie correct. It's one of the most what the fuck movies I've seen in a while. Its comedy's on point, despite how quiet the showing was, it was just bursting with laughter the entire time. There are some scenes that are uncomfortable, yet incredibly funny. The film simultaneously felt like it was an hour and 30 hours. You're unable to predict what's going to happen next, and going into light spoilers, the fact that the directors were able to squeeze that much of emotion in a fucking 5-minute scene of just a still image of two rocks. Outstanding! Encanto was so fun. I'm not a fan of Disney musicals. I personally feel that if the plot has to be pushed forward via song, you've done a bad job writing your story. And this is coming from someone who definitely knows how to write a screenplay. Myself. So the fact that these songs used to develop the characters instead of the narrative, I liked, and holy shit, the characters. I found the plot so forgettable in comparison to how memorable every character is in the story. They're so unique and memorable. Now I could go on about Gabriel, Dolores, Bruno, etc., but there's one character I want to focus on. That character is the house. When you're able to give a house this much a personality that it has, well done. And it's not even limited to this house. Everyone and everything in this world is so interesting to look at. It's bursting with character. Every character stands out on their own in this world. It's so vibrant and colourful. The songs are catchy, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's a Disney musical, of course. They have a knack for doing this. And again, like I said, I don't enjoy Disney musicals, but this star gets a thumbs up from me. It's good. I recommend it. Evangelion 1.0. I love Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's my favourite show, and End of Evangelion is my favourite movie of all time. I wasn't overly sure what I was expecting, but I certainly wasn't expecting the ending of this one, that's for sure. The last minute is fantastic. The majority of this film does follow the original anime with some scenes for clarifications, so if you want to experience the story with an easy digestion, this is what to watch. I take back what I said about this being an easier way to digest the story of Evangelion, but wow, the first half of this was definitely slow, but god damn it. The second half and ending of this. These films are more simple than the original anime, but that ending 20 minutes, holy shit. It diverted from what I was expecting hard, and I'm very intrigued to see where the story goes next. And oh my god, they gave Rei full-on character development, let's fucking go! Eva 3.0. This is one's the most different from what I know, and I honestly can't say it was for the better. The story was too little, not enough was explained, which I like, but the previous films did make sure to explain some of the more confusing elements. I liked the character of Kowu, but he just didn't really seem like enough. It felt like this film was incredibly short for what it was aiming for. Another 10 to 20 minutes just to explain some elements like what happened the previous 14 would, at least to me, improved it a little. 3.0 plus 1.0. And again, I retract the criticism from the previous movie, as this one does what I wished for. This movie feels very bittersweet to me. Funnily enough, it felt very similar to Your Name. This entirely relates to the ending. But first, this one has a major step up quality-wise. It's easily my favourite part of the entire story that all of Neon Genesis has provided. Seeing Shinji's redemption mentally even better than it was done in End of Evangelion. Seeing him find a place without merging into one being, and seeing him truly show compassion and kindness, it's an element that's done so incredibly well. And seeing an odd pairing of Rei and Class Reps, seeing how those two characters mesh so incredibly well, watching Rei's development again, this time being taught through a motherly figure. Mori adds this element to help with this pain you're seeing. The fourth impact didn't feel as strong as the original third, but the fight between Shinji and Gendo, it was a bit generic, but that second that fight slows down to talk is when it's all but confirmed it's going to be a fantastic ending. And circling back to the ending, this movie gave me heavy definition of insanity, feeling relating to Gendo, and sort of gave me this impression of an infinite loop, the original anime, and heck, possibly the manga fills. The Shinji breaking that by removing Evangelions from the world, and now I have to talk about that bittersweet ending, all but confirming that the series that I held so close to my heart is over forever, and seeing the two characters who I assumed would end up together, Shinji and Asuka, being a part in this ending hurts a lot, especially with that shot in the train station, seeing everyone truly having a relationship with each other except Asuka being on her own. And like I said, it's a very happy ending knowing that they're all in a much better place. But the series will probably never return after this movie, and it hurts to me as that series I hold close and I believe is special. I'm wanting to make a video talking about Evangelion, but it's gonna be a work in progress. I have to go through the entire thing, make notes on every episode and everything. So it may be coming, I don't know. Halloween. It's entertaining, it's the first horror movie to do many of the common tropes we have to this day. I took heavy inspiration from it for my media studies project, which was a short horror film. It's good. I mean, the first 30 minutes of the film was good. Not much else. Now, I feel like I'm going to have to review each part separately because of how different they are, so that's what I'm going to do with this segment. Phantom Blood does what it needs to do. It introduces Dio, Jonathan Joestar, and how this bizarre adventure starts. It's a good short part that you can blast through in a sitting. I was kind of expecting it to be longer due to, like, I thought these were major epic journeys and 10 episodes for the first part. I was expecting a lot more, but I'm not going to complain. It was fun. It's just not my favourite. It's probably the worst in my opinion. This is a fun part. Joseph Nature here is so fun, and I found the story pretty entertaining. I do wish that they stuck with the hormone usage further on into the series, however, it does feel too Dragon Ball-y, seeing as how it is just strong punching. This is definitely a part I come back to and watch a decent amount, just because it's quite entertaining, and you don't have to take too serious. It's a bit goofy at times, and I like that. Now this is what good shit is. Where do I begin? The introduction to Stans took me a minute to get used to. Joseph carries over from part 2, my opinions on him are the same. Polnareff, I didn't enjoy him at first, although he's grown on me. Avdol was a legend, though he served a purpose. You know, he took the main focus at the start, took the step back at the end. He was the teacher who, you know, didn't need to have as big of a role going on. Kakyoin is more, I've thought about it, he kind of doesn't do much. He shows up as an ally to everyone, and with such good... he figured out Dio's power. Other than that, yeah, he didn't do much, but he was enjoyable. Dio was such a good villain, although when he got his full power, I didn't like that character design. And Jotaro, man, perfect. I fucking loved him. He's so well done. He's really well-rounded as a character. I mean, you wouldn't get that seeing as he looks like he's sharper than Minecraft houses. Does that joke track? I've got no clue. Overall, I enjoyed this part. Now this, oh my god, this is a good part. I was worried that they would try to one-up themselves, introducing someone more powerful than Dio, introducing bigger threats, bigger stands, bigger, holy shit, everyone can end the world. They didn't. Josuke's great, and he feels the most real, if that makes sense. I fucking loved the characters of Koichi and Okuyasu. Yukiko and Rohan, emotional tortured Koichi, but grew into some incredibly well-written characters, although Yukiko is fucking annoying. Shigechi, he was a great character, just a kid wanting friends, who then was ripped away from everyone. His final thoughts were really sad. Jotaro, again, my opinions on him carry over. It shows that he is a one-man army. He saved the day in this part and makes sense, which I'll talk about in a second. Do I talk about that in a second? Apparently I didn't follow up on that in the script. Hayato felt like Shigechi reincarnated just in time to... Just this time, he was a thorn in Kira's side, and... Badass but gross, so man deserved his death, and that's all I'm gonna be honest and say. This is my least favourite part. Giorno was a great character, but he didn't exactly have that good of a relationship with anyone in his crew other than Bucciarati. They kind of just tolerated him, it felt like, and it seems like they got hella annoyed because he's just too cool. This definitely felt more like it was Bucciarati and Mitsu's story over Giorno as well. I was definitely upset with how little attention they gave to Trish as well in this part. She seemed like she could have had a lot of character development, and again, as I said, this feels more like it's Mista's part. The return of Polnareff, I love that. It made him a lot likable in my opinion. He was, I hated him in Stardust Crusaders, but he was so likable this part. Diavolo, he was an interesting antagonist and definitely stands out amongst everyone else, and definitely has a standout moment. But overall, I don't think it's the best. Okay, listen, shush past Kurtz. Now, I still don't think it's a pinnacle of TV or of the show, but this part has grown on me a lot since I've watched it. I'm not overly sure as to why it has, but I'm kind of unsure even still as to how I feel about this part. This is generally a part I have no clue on what to... Now, I would also include my opinion on Stone Ocean, but it hasn't fucking finished because Netflix butchered its release. But I read the manga. It's good. I like it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I did so much praise for the show before watching it, and it's fine. I guess my overall opinion for the show was fantastic characters, stellar animation, awesome fight scenes, banger music, some of which I don't really listen to. But the story just didn't feel like it hit for me. I expected a really good story like I do with a lot of anime, but I just felt like it wasn't there. I've heard from here on the story is great, and I hope it is, but yeah, my other complaint is that I can't really remember the characters' names. I searched up Jujutsu Kaisen characters on Google, and they list 8 characters. Here's one I confidently remember, Gojo. That's because he has such an infectious personality, I can't help but love them. Now my opinions on characters with the help of Google. Ishidori, good protagonist. Fushiguro was... I don't hate him, but I don't think it was that interesting. Kugisaki was a great character I expected I would hate, and, well, she didn't get... Oh, wait. No. Fuck, what's her name again? Anyway. I don't hate him, but I... No, wait. I expected I would hate her, and while she doesn't get too much screen time, she's incredibly likable. Inumaki, Inumaki, he didn't have much development and felt like he was left out on purpose. The 347 Sorcerer is cool, his fights always felt impressive, and Todo, what a guy. He's so funny and likable, plus his power is pretty cool. Sukuna was cool whenever he showed up, not feeling evil, more just toying with someone because he's bored. I don't know, I can't give a solid opinion on this because I want to see where it goes. Yeah, that's all I've got to say. I'm gonna be honest, I preferred the movie over the show. Now, I thought Yuta's character was more interesting, seeing his arc throughout this, how long was the movie? Hour 40 minutes? And compared to Itadori's arc in the first series, it's a lot more interesting. Now, the series has grown on me a lot. I'm not going to deny that at all. I think it's actually incredibly fun and that there's a lot of merit in it. But the movie is just better in my opinion. It's a lot simpler. It does what it needs to do. It doesn't do a lot. It's simple, it's short, and it's fun. And the fights are so good. You know there's something wrong with me when I enjoyed Minions 2, The Rise of Gru. I don't know why I thought it was so funny. Why did I have the time of my life watching it? Why did I dress up nice to go watch it? Why did I feel like a fucking fever dream and I can't remember anything but 40 seconds of this film? Why? Multiverse of madness, more like multiverse of poop. Ha, that's so funny. I'm truly lost as I'm not a fan of this movie. I've never been near falling asleep or watching a movie. I just found it extremely boring. I don't care about any of the stakes. The pacing just felt very off to me. The big reveals in this film just didn't feel surprising. A movie about the concept of the multiverse has so much room for creativity, so you could understand why I was disappointed with the different realities they've changed to. Earth but cleaner. Earth but about to end. The CGI just didn't look good to me either, and it's something that just is related to a lot of Marvel stuff at the moment, so yeah. One of the worst Marvel films I've seen. Mobius sweeps, it's peak fiction. If you don't like it, you clearly just can't understand art, and if you don't like it and still choose to don't like it after watching it 20 more billion times, fuck off. Mortal Kombat Battle of the Rounds. Rounds? Okay. I'm not going to pretend that the reason I watch this movie isn't because I get bored and I just want some mindless action. I don't expect a good story, I just expect fun, which is what I get with these films. A lot of attention to detail has gone into the animation, making it as brutal as possible. The story doesn't exactly interest me in these films, but I enjoy watching them as some good background noise in class. Yeah. No, so... I have a confession. I don't watch the whole show. I watched 219 out of 220 episodes. But there is a valid reason. I watched the show on Crunchyroll, I selected English subtitles for this, and for some reason episode 219 had no English subtitles. The English section would only display Spanish subtitles. Now this show is really good. I would say if you're not a fan of filler stretches then this isn't your show, but I found the filler arcs entertaining perfectly. Not something groundbreaking, but a good thing to watch while doing homework. The actual story, however, is great. It's simple and it knows what it's doing and does that well. Love the characters, other than the bitch Sakura. A definite standout would be Neji and Lee, they're my definite favourites. Good show, I loved it. I may or may not have finished Shippuden. I don't care, I guess I'll see. You'll have to see as well, or you could just look in this timeline, you fucking cheater. Okay, I may be lying. I haven't finished Naruto Shippuden yet at the time of recording this. I am on, let me just check Crunchyroll right now, episode 425. So, I'm very close to the end, and I thought I may as well include it in this video. Now, my opinion? Very inconsistent, okay? Sometimes episodes and arcs are fucking like nuts, balls to the walls, 10 out of 10. Sometimes they're very snooze-festy, I guess. I've seen a lot of people saying how OG's better, and I mean, my phone just went off while recording. Love that. They can't be compared because OG Naruto doesn't wrap up any of the plot points because they're all wrapped up in Shippuden. Now, my favorite arcs of the series, the one where they had to try and capture the three-tailed beast, the war arc, and the pain arc. Those are the three best arcs in the series in my opinion. And the one thing that I loved about this part of Naruto, or series, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, it made me care about Sakura. I despised her in the first part, OG Naruto, whatever. But what this actually did was give her depth and actually make me understand her motives and make me care about her as a character. It's the thing that I see a lot of hate for, and I really like the fact that I enjoy her character now. There's one episode, like way at the start of Shippuden, where it's just her talking about how much everything's changed, and it's one of the most gripping scenes in that entire show to me because I was just drawn to seeing how a specific character's worldview had changed in that. Now, the fights are the really big fights against the Akatsuki are great. No surprise there. I do enjoy them. Yeah, solid show. Not the best I've watched, not the worst I've watched. It does kind of get bad towards the ending, but yeah. Nobody. Now, when I saw the trailers for this movie last year, I thought, cool, a generic action movie I'm never gonna watch. And one of the guys responsible for John Wick worked on it, a movie which I don't really like. But Nobody's a lot more enjoyable to me. Scenes feel more intense, the story grips me more, even if it's practically the same to John Wick. Bob Odenkirk does a fantastic job, and seeing Christopher Lloyd in this movie wielding a shotgun badass really did shock me. It's a fun movie to watch with friends. I didn't expect more, to be honest. This is the first Jordan Peele film I've seen, and holy shit, the suspense in this movie. Hooked from the very beginning and constantly thinking of how everything will link. The second act is so unbelievably intense, I was holding my breath. The only thing stopping this movie being a 10 out of 10 to me was the resolution felt fairly mediocre to the rest of the film, which is fucking incredible. It's fine, it just falls into the usual Disney Plus series issue. There's some pretty bad episodes. I also think that this would have benefited more as just a movie. 2.5 hours would have been enough to tell the story they wanted to. A lot of the series did feel like filler. The rematches were cool to see, however, I don't like how they made Kenobi stronger than Vader in the final showdown. It's like... Prey was a really nice surprise. I didn't expect for me to enjoy it as much as I did. It felt very creative. I'd never watched a Predator movie before this, but I'd only ever really heard mediocre to bad things about them, but this one I really enjoyed. It felt to me like it was an indie movie with a massive budget. It was fun. I liked how simple it was. Keeping things simple sometimes is the best thing to do, because it fulfilled on everything I was expecting, and I really liked the amount of practical effects that they chose to use instead of just going CGI. That made me really appreciate this movie. Prisoners. What a fucking movie. This film presses hard on the gas and doesn't stop. It has the same feeling of a murder mystery, constantly changing who the culprit is, and its ending is phenomenal, and I love it. I recommend it highly. It's such a good film. Turns out I don't write a review for Scream even though it's listed here in this document, so I'm just gonna freeform this. I love this movie. It's so fun, it's so meta, it's so good. I loved how it was done. This movie made me a Scream fan. It made this series probably... Well, no, it didn't make this series, but I really enjoyed it. It's such a fun watch. It's such a good thing to watch with friends, anytime really. I personally don't watch horror movies around Halloween just because I just watch them whenever, and it's fun. That's all I've got to say. It's just a really good and fun movie. Time for me to go full movie critic. The Scream series is a pinnacle in the horror movie friend. The Scream series is a pinnacle in the horror movie genre. While they're all essentially following the same plot like similar series, the Scream series does a flawless job at writing incredible twists that don't come out of nowhere and are phenomenal at writing amazing psychopaths, and in my opinion, the sequel holds up incredibly well, calling up all the tropes for sequel and doing them fantastically. It's a solid watch to friends, and it's not much more than what I was expecting. The Scream series has always been over the top. I mean, they're fucking parodies, with Ghostface's flamboyant and over-top movements being iconic at this point. But Scream 3 is where the series feels too goofy to me. The opening scene, like all the Scream films, are a masterpiece on setting the stakes immediately and providing a fun, fantastic short film. And after the opening scene happens in this one, the movie goes downwards rapidly towards a point of mediocrity in comparison to the others, which have remained, at least to me personally, a solid 7 out of 10. Scream 4. This movie's opening was so fucking meta, but I found that the first two acts of this one were very mediocre. Though it honestly isn't the worst of the series, it's just not good. I just found it very boring. The dialogue felt daft and wasn't to the level I was expecting. But the last act and all the murders go sicko mode. I loved it. The insanity in writing is phenomenal. I would have considered this a 6, maybe 7 out of 10. Except that stupid glow filter that movies from the early 2000s have that makes everyone look plastic and makes any light source give me a migraine. That's entirely a me thing, but I can't give it a higher rating because of that. Scream 5. I hadn't seen any of the previous Scream movies before I went in and watched this movie, but I had such a fun time with this movie. It's incredibly meta, and I absolutely love that. And I hate that I saw myself in the killer, and how I absolutely fucking despise the Star Wars sequels. And this definitely is going to be a movie I come back to a lot, because it's such a great film, and I was second-guessing myself every single 10 seconds, and it made me want to watch the entire Scream franchise. Spider-Man No Way Home, 7 out of 10. I'm not saying this to be different. Personally, I just didn't enjoy this movie. One of my friends who I went with and watched it did help improve the experience because he just ripped on anyone who was screaming. Personally, I don't like what they did. Good movie, bad for the MCU. I don't find Andrew, Tom, and Toby personally had good chemistry on screen. It always just felt a bit off. And it's important seeing as they were the main characters, so it was kind of a bit immersion breaking. The people saying this is one of the best movies ever are being blinded by their nostalgia bonus. This film doesn't stand up to like any of the greatest films, and it's personally one of the worst films in the MCU. And again, I'm not saying this to be different. I just really did not enjoy this movie. I love this series. The story's so simple, but it's pulled off very well, and it's so entertaining. The three main characters are each amazing, goofy, and silly. The animation is great. I want to say the opening and ending song of the first part are absolute bangers and utter vibe. It's a good time, and it perfectly encapsulates how the show feels. However, why does there just have to be random incest? Like, is this just a normal thing in Japan? The Adam Project. It's fine. Nothing to get excited about. The star power of Ryan Reynolds and Mark Ruffalo is what made this movie succeed. Walker Scobell did a good job with how young he was. I want to make the reviews this year more in depth, but there's not much to talk about with this movie. It's very forgettable. The Batman. I try not to get overly hyped for movies, as usually they'll let me out, but this one I was super hyped for. And it did not fucking disappoint. Now, do I think it's better than The Dark Knight? They both have their own aspects, and I love that I don't have issues with either. As I said to my friends after watching this, I believe The Dark Knight is a masterpiece, but I find The Batman a more enjoyable movie. I know comparing this sort of thing is stupid, seeing how different they are, but it's what everyone is doing. But top 3 comic book movies should watch was Worth the Wait, 10 out of 10. This is what I consider a faithful adaptation of Batman whilst making it realistic. Something that the Nolan trilogy tried, but didn't exceed as well. As you can easily tell that Bruce Wayne's in his early years. He's essentially taking on the Zodiac Killer, not Darkseid. The psychological horror they leaned heavily on was fantastic, and it fit this version of Gotham. The Riddler was incredible. Paul Dano steals the show every time he's shown. Wouldn't he's shown very rarely. It's just such a goddamn good movie. The Black Phone is so bloody good, with me only having one nitpick. The concept is amazing. Child kidnapper takes someone. Previous victims working together from the afterlife to help save the current victim. Ethan Hawke steals the fucking show in this film. His performance is captivating, his body language and delivery of lines is terrifying, the idea of the mask and how it's executed, the grabber treating this as a sick game. Then of course you have the police side of the film, which in a lot of these movies I don't enjoy, but I really enjoyed it in this one due to the fact that they made it less. It wasn't the main focal point. My only issue is the ending felt a bit I don't have a single clue as to how it could have been wrapped up better, but it's a solid modern day horror film. You know those movies where not much really happens, but you love the movie? This is one of those to me. Obviously it's a very personal story to Pete Davidson as it nearly mimics his own upbringing, and I didn't find it as funny as what I thought I was going to, but it's honestly a rather sad film. The Kingsman. I really did not enjoy this movie, at all. It takes everything good about the first 2 Kingsman films and removes all of that for a very shitty World War I movie where all the poster characters basically die in the first hour. There were so many times that I looked up the runtime and did math to see how long was left in this shit film, and I never go on my phone while watching movies, even if I hate it. I started playing rounds of chess on my phone while watching this. I would rather do anything other than watch this film. It's painfully bad, and it's just a bland movie. If you want to watch this, don't. Get away from it. Uncharted. This was not that good. I haven't played an actual Uncharted game yet. I know, I'm a fake gamer. But I know a decent amount to say that Tom Holland, he ain't Nathan Drake. The one-liners that Tom had did make me laugh at sometimes, but the story just is kind of lame. This is still a movie, and people won't know the source material, believe me. I saw it at a screening I went to. The only people who were there were girls from the age of 11 to 15, and I assumed they were there for Tom Holland. So they needed to flesh out the characters more and not rely that everyone watching this knew what they are, as the characters felt incredibly 2D. All the double crosses there was just super predictable, and the plot was just stupid. I mean, by the end of the movie, the plot just gets reset. The only part I enjoyed was that Sally's card looked a lot like Paul Allen's card from American Psycho, so I just laughed my ass off because I've just been burned into my brain that movie funny. I'm not crying, you are. Shut up. I love this movie. It's so cute and so incredibly sad. While watching this, I couldn't decide whether to cry because the story is so sad, or be astonished by how beautiful the animation is. The 2 protagonists of Mitsuha and Taki were so great. Their chemistry, despite never meeting, was adorable. The twist had me crying with how sad it was. The ending was so good. Again, making me question whether I should cry or be happy. That's how I describe this movie. The perfect mix of wanting to cry and smile. Now, as much as I love this movie, I have one criticism, which is how they didn't figure out that they were in different years. It's established they have phones. They could have just checked their phones. Did they not figure that out? Zombieland. Look, I can understand why people like this film. Personally, not for me. I'm more of a Shaun of the Dead man. But I can see why it's a cult classic. It's a fun, lighthearted zombie film about picking your own family, and I don't have any real critiques. It's just not my cup of tea. It is, however, a good rewatch, and I wouldn't be overly surprised if I come back to watch it a lot. Zombieland 2. It's a fun time. I prefer this movie over the original. But all the series has ever been to me is just something to watch as background noises, nothing more and nothing less. And this year's big movie recap has been brought to an end. If you enjoyed this video, like I said at the intro, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Honestly, I'm very impressed you've made it this far. This is quite a long video, so thumbs up for me. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Next video. I don't know when the next video is coming out, but I'll see you later. Bye.